Having a bank account is something most of us don't really think about. It's just something we have, need to have, something that is necessary to live in the 21st century. Unless you want to live as a hermit somewhere in a hut, pay for supplies with gold coins, chickens, or just use cryptocurrency, which could really happen at some point. The more the world goes digital, the more important having a bank account is, for the moment. Cash payments will soon be a thing of the past, and as of right now, the only really viable option is having a bank account with online access and debit and credit cards, which you can use to purchase items or services. Within a few decades, though, it is very likely the system will be outdated as well and will be replaced by something else, most likely blockchain related, but that's not going to happen just yet. However, most people only have one or a few bank accounts in their country, and that's it. Their entire banking system is based in one nation, and in 99% of the time, that would be the nation where they are living. This is a very bad idea and leaves you open to so many problems, which might never occur, but it would be silly to put your trust in hoping that it'll never come to that. It's basically the same principle which applies to every single other base or aspect of your life. If you rely on just one source for it, you are very vulnerable to something happening and causing you tremendous problems. Being diversified and creating abundance in your life is of primary importance. For your personal life, dating multiple women or men, professional life, having multiple businesses, and of course your financial life, having multiple assets, investments, and bank accounts. In this video, I'll tell you more about why you should really get bank accounts in other countries and how and where you can do this. On this channel, I talk about the impending collapse of the Western world, how you can save yourself, and where you can move to. If you like this kind of content and you want to get more of it for free, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment below. It really helps and would be greatly appreciated. Okay, onwards with the video. Why would you get banking in multiple other countries? Simply put, because it protects you and creates abundance and safety in your financial life, something every person should take seriously these days. You should never keep any significant amount of money in a bank in the country where you are residing, legally and formally, or where you are a citizen, and most certainly not in a Western bank. By significant, I mean a sum that would matter to you. For one person, $5,000 would be a lot, and they would definitely feel its loss, but other people wouldn't even notice if they'd lose 500,000. The reason for which you should never keep a relatively large sum of money in a bank account in a country where you are residing is rather simple. Banks aren't loyal to their customers. They are loyal to their government, and thus they will never prioritize your financial well-being over the demands of a government, legal or otherwise. If you run into any sort of problem or dispute, the government can seize or freeze your money, and your bank will oblige them without a second thought. Banks will also happily inform the government about how much money you have, so you can be taxed to the fullest extent. Your private bank account is extremely transparent to the instances that could empty it without your permission. Yes, Western governments can confiscate your money for no reason and then just keep it. I'm not joking. This is called civil asset forfeiture. And if all of that wasn't bad enough, add the fact that Western banks are extremely fragile, debt-ridden, over-leveraged, and are operating on an outdated, failing, corrupt, and illogical system, one that isn't designed with your well-being in mind. Banks have collapsed in the past, have almost done so multiple times in the last few decades alone, and would have done so if it weren't for government interference, and will almost certainly do so again in the future. They can create money out of nothing, and they use your money to do so. If banks go bankrupt, the government will probably bail them out, but your funds will most likely be lost. Now, of course, this depends on the country. And for example, banks in Switzerland are usually better than a bank in the US or in France, but the same principles apply. Now, you might be thinking I'm advocating to not have a bank account. That's of course not the point. In fact, what I mean here is that you should never have just one bank account. I agree that for convenience's sake, having a bank account in the country where you are living is definitely handy to pay for daily expenses, for example. I just mean that you should never keep large sums of money there, and that you should have several banking bases spread across the world. This goes double for your business banking accounts. Keep a supply of cash money in a bank account in the country where you are living, but keep the vast majority of your banking spread across the world, far removed. Look at your cash reserves as an asset and apply the basis rules accordingly. Put it somewhere safe and, if possible, spread across different, non related countries. This is probably the easiest base to get. I would advise you to set up quite a few of them. Never have any single bank account with a significant portion of your cash reserves. Spread it around. Or even better, only keep enough cash for your operating costs plus emergency fund, and keep the rest of your net worth in other assets like real estate, cryptocurrency, or precious metals. Is getting bank accounts in other countries difficult? No, not at all. Getting started with setting up some banking bases is relatively straightforward, and just like moving abroad, it starts with doing research. Check out some of the countries I'll mention presently, or any country that you plan to move to, and see if you can open a bank account without the need to be a resident. This can often vary between banks in certain countries, so make sure to be thorough in your research. Just because Bank A is being a dick does not mean Bank B isn't an option. If you do need to get residence in a specific country to be able to open a bank account, and that country is a viable option for a residence base, I'd suggest you get it. Get started with your residence base and then add a banking base as soon as possible. I would strongly advise you to steer clear of remote options of opening a bank account. Might be completely fine, but in my experience, this is often quite shady and I wouldn't trust it. Go to the bank in person. Bring the required documents, the minimum amount of cash you need to put in, and get it sorted. When you're at the bank, make sure you receive both your physical debit card and your online banking information. This is very important because you need to be able to access your money from anywhere in the world, which is an absolute requirement for living the life of a citizen of the world. In my opinion, the greatest and most noble path for a man or woman in the 21st century. That's it, you're done with your banking base in one country. Now, rinse and repeat with as many other countries as you want. This immediately leads into the question of where can you get banking in another country? Ideally, for your banking basis, you'd want a country where checking and/or savings accounts are easy to open and provide a decent return. The latter immediately rules out any Western bank because the returns are abysmal nowadays, not to mention the inherent risks I mentioned earlier. But of course, having a decent return isn't that important in general, as you're not going to be putting large enough sums into one account for it to really matter. It's just an asset, and as long as you're not losing money, it's okay. Great options here are Belize, the Bahamas, Switzerland. It's in Europe, so tread with caution, but their banking system does have a good reputation. Uruguay, Armenia, mainly because of their excellent returns, currently 9.5%. Panama, Singapore, Hong Kong, and the Philippines. Another benefit of having bank accounts across multiple diverse countries is that you are virtually protected against any one currency crashing. You're diversified across currencies, which is a very important aspect of having a secure financial life, just like being diversified across the world and across sectors. If you have a bank account in, say, Germany, Spain, and Italy, you are not protected against the crash of the euro, as all three of these nations use that currency. A much better option is, for example, to have bank accounts in Belize, Singapore, and Switzerland. Your bank accounts are spread across the globe in non affiliated nations with different currencies. Whatever happens to any one of them will most likely not affect the others, so you're pretty safe in most scenarios. Because this is pretty easy to implement, I would encourage you not to wait too long before getting started with creating several bank accounts across the world. If something were to happen, your peace of mind would be intact, knowing you've got backups upon backups. In my opinion, this is really a non-issue. It's relatively easy to set up several banking bases, and it provides you with tremendous security and peace of mind. So there really aren't any reasons why you shouldn't get started on this as soon as possible. There we go. Hope you got something out of this video. I'm curious to hear about your thoughts. Do you have multiple bank accounts spread across the world? Do you think I'm a paranoid weirdo and that nothing bad will ever happen to your single banking country? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to know more about these topics, check out my website escapingthewest.net or consider my book up on Amazon, link in the description. See you in the next video.